We had a Hail Mary in D.C. as the Washington Commanders knock off the Chicago Bears in the best finish of the NFL season. That and more on Locked On NFL.
The new Locked On NFL. The madman Tyler Rowland is your double shot of NFL espresso with the Locked On local experts on every major story. Get ready. Rowland is revving up. The new Locked On NFL starts now. Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
Football fans, welcome in to the Locked On NFL podcast, bringing you a double dose of the NFL's biggest stories with help from our local experts that know your favorite teams like no one else. I am your host, the madman, Tyler Rowland, joined today as I am every Monday by Locked On NFL expert Gino Camilleri. On today's episode, it was too little too late for the Dallas Cowboys in San Francisco. The Cleveland Browns pull off the biggest upset of the weekend as Winston knocks off the Ravens. But first, we got to talk about this Hail Mary from Jayden Daniels. An incredible, incredible finish in D.C. Before we do, want to thank you for making Locked On NFL your first listen of the day and for being an everydayer here with us at the Locked On Podcast Network, where it is your team every day. Today's episode is brought to you by Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, use the code LOCKEDONNFL for $20 off your first purchase. Gino, obviously the Hail Mary is the big story here. One of the best plays we're going to see all year. But at the core of this game was Caleb Williams versus Jayden Daniels. And it was Daniels who made the big play late.
When you look at the NFL, they do a fantastic job setting up the storylines. And man, oh man, did they milk this thing all week long, right up until game time. Is Jayden Daniels going to play? Is he not going to play? And then all of a sudden, you have a battle of the top two picks in the class. People are saying that maybe Jayden Daniels should have been the pick over Caleb Williams. I wouldn't go that far. I think it sets up perfectly for what we saw play out as a game that, if you look at the statistics, it wasn't pretty for the Chicago Bears team, but they find a way. Their defense keeps them in it late. Caleb Williams and that offense find a way to get back in that game, take a lead late, and then the magic of the NFL and Jayden Daniels just happened at the end there.
Absolutely, and we'll get some insight from my guy David Harrison from Locked On Commanders on how big this win was.
We said it before, but the previous Washington Commanders absolutely would have dropped the game that just went down here Week 9 in Northwest Stadium in Landover, Maryland. 18-15, the Washington Commanders pull out an unlikely, nearly impossible win at the end of the game. It looked like number one pick Caleb Williams was going to be the hero of the day, leading the Chicago Bears back in the second half to take the lead with less than a minute left in the game, but with just ticks left on the game clock. Jayden Daniels, Hail Mary, 52 yards, finds the hands of wide receiver Noah Brown, and the Washington Commanders are 6-2, still in first place of the NFC East division. Never been in an environment like this one, so it's going to be a lot of fun. Make sure you come through for the Locked On Commanders podcast for more, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Gino, that's the crazy part is Caleb Williams did not play well for, 45 minutes of this game, maybe 50 minutes of this game. And then all of a sudden at the end, he leads a couple of drives. They try to hand it off to the offensive lineman and fumble. What in the world are we doing there, Shane Waldron? That was insane. But Caleb Williams gets them back again before the time runs out and gets that touchdown for the Bears. But, it just wasn't enough because Jayden Daniels is an unstoppable force this year. And the Hail Mary was great. You get the catch from Noah Brown in the end zone. But the play before that, Jayden Daniels hits a quick pass to Terry McLaurin, and it puts them in position to be able to throw that Hail Mary, and that's easy to glance over. But, man, Jayden Daniels just continues to come up clutch.
I think Jayden Daniels is doing something right now for this Washington organization that we haven't seen since probably the rookie season of Robert Griffin III. That really rejuvenated the entire franchise. Their first place in the NFC East after winning that game, they look to be a team that, talk about a team of destiny, bounces going your way. If there was ever a game that went in your manner that wouldn't go your way in the past, David Harrison said it perfectly. Washington doesn't win that game 99 out of 100 times. But for the Bears, they lose that game 101 times out of
Yep.
100. That's a tough game to lose. I don't think it's on any indictment of the team. I thought to get back in that position in the end was good for them. Still in the
Right.
thick of things in the NFC North. But man, confidence goes a long way for these rookie quarterbacks. And if anybody got the biggest jump, maybe a push closer to a Rookie of the Year award, Jayden
Yes.
Daniels did that tonight, man. He just continues to win those Rookie of the Week awards, and he's probably going to win it after that performance this week.
100%. I mean, the Commanders have been a good team all season. They're 6-2. Like, it's not like the Bears lost to a bad team, and like the Bears are still a solid team too at 4-3. But these sorts of things really do matter at the end of the day. You think about that, and it makes me think of Tyreek Stevenson, the cornerback from the Bears. He's talking trash to the fans during the middle of the play, like it isn't even before. Wide receivers are running down the field, and he's still got his back turned to the play. He runs in, and he's the one who knocks the pass up. It's his guy who catches it in the back of the end zone. He's come out and apologized, but, man, those are just things that are hard to come back from. But speaking of hard to come back from, the Cincinnati Bengals at home at 3-4 with a chance to win and get to 500 and really start to make their push, get absolutely bullied by the Philadelphia Eagles 37-17. Gino, that's the team that you cover. What happened in this one? What stood out to you?
I think it was a battle of two young quarterbacks that came from the same class back in 2020, and Jalen Hurts had the better day. Joe Burrow, when the mistakes came to fruition, they came in bunches. He has a turnover late in that game. The Eagles are able to create a turnover late on Mike Gesicki. They win the turnover battle. And Jalen Hurts, in the first 4 games, he was a turnover machine. He was perfect in this game. And Philadelphia, their offense, a little bit of balance. The run game looks good. The two guys in the pass game, Devontae Smith and A.J. Brown, look really good. But their defense, Ty, that's the story. Vic Fangio's defense has only allowed 2 offensive touchdowns in the last 3 games. They both come today. But after the bye week, we were wondering, can Nick Sirianni and this staff turn this team around? Well, they had to, because look at Washington. You're still a half game out of first place, needing to go and get a win. That race is not slowing down anytime soon. If you dropped a couple of these games, you could be behind the pack. With as good as the NFC North is and as deep as the NFC is, the Eagles got back on track today. The 2022 Philadelphia Eagles, the one that made a run towards the Super Bowl, they were there. But for the Bengals, in a game where they kind of had to win in the grand scheme of things in the AFC, the run game can't get going. The defense can't get off the field. As good as Joe Burrow is, going 10 for 13 on third downs, this isn't a one-man sport. And to lose T. Higgins right before this game, it was clear that outside of Jamar Chase, they might not have those playmakers, as well as Mike Gesicki did play. They don't have the depth that a lot of these really good teams have up top.
Yeah, I think you mentioned the balance that the Eagles had on offense. You see Saquon Barkley have a great day going over 100 yards. And then the Bengals, they rushed for 58 yards on 20 carries, under 3 yards per carry. Like, without T. Higgins out there, that's simply not going to be good enough, because Burrow can't carry it in that way with just Chase. He needs both Chase and Higgins to be able to carry some of these matchups. But with that being said, the other team in Ohio, the Cleveland Browns, everyone all over has been calling for Jameis Winston to play over Deshaun Watson. And the Browns' hand got forced to do that. And of course, it turns into a win. Today's episode is brought to you by LinkedIn. When you're hiring for your small business, you want to find quality professionals that are right for the role. That's why you have to check out LinkedIn Jobs. LinkedIn Jobs has the tools to help you find the right professionals for your team faster and for free. LinkedIn isn't just a job board. LinkedIn helps you hire professionals you can't find anywhere else, even those who aren't actively searching for a new job, but might be open to the perfect role. In a given month, over 70% of LinkedIn users don't visit other leading job sites, So if you're not looking on LinkedIn, you're looking in the wrong place. On LinkedIn, 86% of small businesses get a qualified candidate within 24 hours. So hire professionals like a professional on LinkedIn. It's why 2.5 million small businesses use LinkedIn for their hiring. Post your job for free at linkedin.com/lockedonnfl. That's linkedin.com/lockedonnfl to post your job for free. Terms and conditions apply. Today's episode is also brought to you by Prize Picks. Prize Picks is daily fantasy sports made simple. It's the most fun way to play daily fantasy sports, and that's why they have over 10 million members and billions, that's billions of dollars in awarded winnings. You just pick more or less on at least 2 players for a shot to win up to 100 times your cash. You can run your game all season long on Prize Picks. So just some mock examples for you guys. Jamar Chase, 79.5 receiving yards. Patrick Mahomes, 1.5 passing yards. Travis Kelce, 59.5 receiving yards. Saquon Barkley, 79.5 rushing yards. Again, you just pick 2 to 6 players and say whether they're going to do more or less than the Prize Picks projections. It's that easy, and it's so much fun. Make sure that you download the Prize Picks app today. Use the code LOCKEDONNFL to get $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. Download the Prize Picks app today. Use the code LOCKEDONNFL to get $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. It's Prize Picks. Run your game. All right, Gino, let's continue today's edition of Locked On NFL. We talked about the big Hailmary in D.C., talked about the Eagles getting their season back on track against the stumbling Bengals. Now we got to talk about some upsets because the Cleveland Browns got a big-time upset here with Jameis Winston over the Baltimore Ravens. I mean, this was something that I did not expect to see, but it's no coincidence that it comes after the Browns go with Jameis Winston at quarterback, 29-24 over the Ravens. And my guy Jeff Lloyd from Locked On Browns talked about this win.
Victory Monday. Cleveland Browns back in the win column, now 2-6. A victory today, 29-24 over the Baltimore Ravens at home. Look, we screamed for weeks that we thought there should be a change at the quarterback position. We screamed for whatever change they would possibly throw. Make a change for change's sake. They did. They changed the quarterback. Granted, they had no choice. Changed the play caller. Looks like that one worked out pretty well. And Jameis didn't play favorites. He threw to the open guy. These guys played well today, and Jameis was their leader. Over 300 yards for Jameis Winston today. Something hasn't happened all year. Over 20 points for the Cleveland Browns. Something that has not happened all year.
Gino, I have a shocking piece of news for you. Deshaun Watson might have been the problem. I mean, I know that that's crazy to hear, and nobody in the football sphere has thought about that, but it looks like Deshaun Watson might have been the problem.
So you're trying to tell me that this league, that there's 22 starters, it doesn't just revolve around one single guy who was guaranteed north of $200 million. Yeah, I think I'm on the same page with you. And I want to give a lot of credit to Jameis Winston, almost like a Geno Smith 2.0 story that we're kind of seeing here, where if guys buy into what you are selling in the National Football League, you can play well above your expectation. And to win this game of all games, one, a huge indictment on the Baltimore Ravens for letting this game slip up. But two, a Browns team that could have just laid over and died. No, they change it up. They go with Ken Dorsey as the play caller who knew what was going to happen there. All of a sudden, things work out. They make the change. Jameis Winston comes in, force their hand, and boom, they beat a longtime rival. And that's how wins come in the National Football League. When all the guys play together, it's not a one-man game, and you were bang on, Ty. Maybe that guy who wasn't such a good guy was the problem.
Yeah, it's kind of a shocking revelation here. Like, everyone has been saying you need to bench Deshaun Watson, play Jameis Winston, and it wasn't just like Winston rode the coattails of a great team performance. Like, he delivered some clutch passes. I mean, he got everybody in the wide receiver room going. Cedric Tillman looks like a player now after a couple of years of not doing much. Elijah Moore making plays. Jerry Jeudy making plays. Like, I mean, they didn't even have the type of run game that we typically see from the Cleveland Browns. They only ran for 80 yards. I mean, it was Winston slinging it for 334 yards and 3 touchdowns. Like, it's just crazy to me that it took the Browns this long to make this change and be forced to make this change for them to see it. But another game here, I wouldn't call it an upset, I guess, if you look at, the line on FanDuel coming into the game. But Jordan Love goes out for the Green Bay Packers with another injury, a groin injury. And Malik Willis comes in again and makes a clutch throw down the sideline to put his team in a position to kick a game-winning field goal. My guy, Peter Bukowski from Locked On Packers, broke down the 3 biggest things from that win.
3 quick takeaways from the Packers' 30-27 win over the Jacksonville Jaguars. Takeaway number 1 is the offense is so versatile. Their ability to win in a number of different ways, with Matt LaFleur scheming things up, or with Jordan Love just being superlative, or Malik Willis coming in and making plays. The Jayden Reed 50-yarder to set up the game-winning field goal. That's all Matt LaFleur. You get a backup quarterback in there. He makes a perfect throw. Jayden Reed makes the play. But before that, Josh Jacobs, a 38-yard touchdown run. That's all Josh Jacobs. That's just individual talent. This team can weather the injury storm to Jordan Love. The problem is, and that's takeaway number 2, the Packers need Jordan Love to be the best version of themselves. To win the Super Bowl, they need Jordan Love, and they need Jordan Love playing his best. Matt LaFleur has to find a way to marry what they are able to do, scheming things up for Malik Willis, which they do a terrific job of, and letting Jordan Love cook. He's been a little reckless in the kitchen so far this season, leading the league in interceptions as the day games conclude. They have to find that better balance. And this defense, they have been terrific this season, but when teams have answers to pressure, you have to have counters. Can the defense come up with a counter to their counter? We'll see, with maybe the biggest test of the season, the Detroit Lions coming in next.
I mean, to me right now, there are a lot of answers, but the Green Bay Packers are 6-2. Like Pete said, Jordan Love has been turning over the ball a ton. And remember, Jordan Love missed a couple of games. For him to be at the tops of the league in interceptions thrown when he hasn't even played the whole season, that's definitely alarming. That has to be alarming for Packers fans if they're being honest with themselves. But for Matt LaFleur to have this team at 6-2 and be winning games and coming back in games with Malik Willis, who the Titans just casted off. But I mean, the Titans don't do a lot of things right. So I guess that shouldn't be a big surprise to anybody who follows the NFL. But I mean, it's just a Matt LaFleur masterclass. And he's a guy who he just wins. He just wins all of his games all the time. And right now he might be like my pick for coach of the year.
I was going to say that he has to be top 3 in consideration for one coach of the year. And you're talking about play caller, play designer, individual who just knows how to cater to his quarterback. And I think both of these 2 games that we just talked about puts emphasis on one thing, Ty. How important is having multiple good quarterbacks in this day and age in the National Football League, where guys like Malik Willis are tasked to come into games, same with Jameis Winston, and win games in the National Football League. But when you have Matt LaFleur having such a good pulse on his offense right now, that test against Detroit, we're going to see how in his bag he is, because he's going up against his biggest test, being maybe play caller number 1A and Ben Johnson right now. The NFC North has some really good football teams, but those turnovers with Jordan Love, as good as that arm is, we have seen Patrick Mahomes, Jordan Love, Dak Prescott, those turnovers for good quarterbacks, they will keep other teams in games. You just got to hope you can win those shootouts. And luckily the Packers did today against Doug Peterson's team.
For me, it's hard not to think back to the playoff loss last year for Green Bay when Jordan Love makes the bad interception to end the game. Like, it just, it's hard not to think about that every time he throws a pick and how often he's turning over the ball. And they got lucky here because Trevor Lawrence had an interception and Trevor Lawrence lost a fumble. Like, the Jaguars are not a good football team, and the Packers played with their food and still found a way to eat. But against the Lions, who just rolled the Tennessee Titans and put a 50 burger up on the board, that's not going to work. Again, Jordan Love is going to have to, like Pete said, Jordan Love's going to have to play better for them to win Super Bowl, not just win football games. But speaking of Super Bowl, speaking of the Jordan Love mistake, he made that mistake against the San Francisco 49ers, who it got pretty tight late in the game, but too little too late for the Dallas Cowboys. Today's episode is brought to you by Game Time. Game Time is the best place to buy tickets, period. Why? Because Game Time has the best features in the industry, and they got a brand new feature that makes Game Time even better. It's called Game Time Picks. Game Time Picks makes getting tickets to see your favorite teams play live even easier because Game Time Picks filters out the fluff to show you only incredible deals on great seats, so you don't have to waste time searching through thousands of tickets. Not only do they have Game Time Picks, but they still have the view from your seat. You literally get a panoramic view from your seat, so you know exactly what you're going to be looking at when you sit down. And if you toggle on the feature in the app, you're going to get all-in pricing, so the price that you see for your tickets is the price that you pay for your tickets. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time Picks. Download the Game Time app, create an account, use the code LOCKEDONNFL for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account, redeem code LOCKEDONNFL for $20 off. Download Game Time today. What time is it? It's game time. All right, Gino, let's cap off today's edition of the Locked On NFL podcast. Went over some of the best games of Sunday so far, but now we're going to talk about the nightcap here. Sunday Night Football, a classic matchup between the Dallas Cowboys and the San Francisco 49ers. Before we dive into it, do want to thank you again for making Locked On NFL your first listen. Make sure that you get subscribed, make sure that you stay subscribed, and make sure that you check out the afternoon edition of Locked On NFL with Tony Wiggins, the barber himself, stepping into the barber shop and chopping up all of the best topics coming out of Sunday. The Dallas Cowboys lose this game. They make it close late, though, with a couple of fourth quarter touchdowns, but this team is just not good enough. And my guy Landon McCool from Locked On Cowboys talked about that.
The Dallas Cowboys lose a roller coaster as their season sinks further into the abyss. Hi, I'm Landon McCool, the Locked On Cowboys podcast, and the Dallas Cowboys had an ideal first half. In fact, they were leading going into halftime, and things looked pretty reasonable considering the situation going into the game. They had obviously all the injuries and situations that they were dealing with. And found out as the game was about to kick off that their starting running back Rico Dowdle would be out due to illness. We'll give you more updates as we get more about that. But it definitely was not looking good for the Cowboys going into this football game. So for them to be leading at halftime was quite a development. But as the third quarter developed, San Francisco started to get things together on offense, stopped shooting themselves in the foot, and started to pull away. Dallas made a little comeback in the fourth quarter, make things interesting, but ultimately it wasn't enough. Cowboys lose. For more on this, check us out on the Locked On Cowboys podcast.
To me, all the failures with the Dallas Cowboys come down to Jerry Jones and the roster construction. They do not have a running back. Like, Rico Dowdle is a fine player. He's a good, solid backup running back, but they don't have a legit running back. Ezekiel Elliott should not be on an NFL roster. Like, going to Dalvin Cook, it looked okay, I guess, but the Cowboys just don't have enough talent outside of CeeDee Lamb. Jake Ferguson is good, but 6 for 23. It's not like he made a huge impact on the game. Jalen Tolbert and Kavontae Turpin. The Cowboys have always been, they're chasing the big fish out there. They're going big game hunting. And in reality, Jerry Jones not doing that and sitting back and doing absolutely nothing. This team doesn't have enough talent to be the contender that they want to be.
And I think it's pretty incriminating too when you look at the other side of the ball and a rookie Isaac Guerrero is running all over the field, and you didn't draft anybody at that position this year, and you quote unquote were going all in. But where did you go all in, Jerry Jones? That's what I want to know. But hats off to Kyle Shanahan and that 49ers team. They were beaten down and bruised, and that offense is all sorts of banged up. But to come out of that game and still find a way to score 30 points on a Cowboys defense, which obviously is fluttering at this current point in time. But Brock Purdy did enough when Dak Prescott was pushing the pace and throwing interceptions. Purdy took care of the ball, and all of a sudden he's a dual threat quarterback. He ran all over that Cowboys defense. But San Fran, they are in the mix in a Western division, which every team is within a half a game, and they're all at either 4-4 or 3-4 right now. It is a mess out there.
Yeah, it's going to be a bloodbath. And I mean, right now, the Arizona Cardinals through 8 weeks are winning the NFC West. I don't think anybody would have expected that. But the last thing I want to do is I do want to give a shout out here to George Kittle. It's National Tight Ends Day. A lot of tight end action all over the NFL, but kind of the poster child for this event is George Kittle. He gets 6 catches, 128 yards in the touchdown. Just a huge performance when the wide receiver group is, I don't want to say in shambles, but they're definitely not the best version of themselves. You could tell that Deebo Samuel was a little limited with his breath coming off the ammonia and being in the hospital. Obviously, Ricky Pearsall as a rookie, he got out there and finally made some plays, though. And Brandon Ayuk out for the season. Juwan Jennings missing out there as well. So got to give a shout out to George Kittle, the tight end representative of the day, for his performance. But San Francisco, if they can get healthy, they just constantly show that they have what it takes to make noise. They just need to get healthier and get to the playoffs and maybe make another addition at wide receiver. I think Deontay Johnson would be a really good fit in San Francisco, but that's a conversation for another day. That's going to do it for today's Sunday recap, Week 8 in the NFL. I'm your host, Tyler Rowland, the Madman, for my co-host, Gino Camilleri. That's going to do it for us today. Make sure that you get subscribed, stay subscribed. It's Locked On NFL, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. And as I tell you every time, stay safe out there.